Good morning or good afternoon or wherever you are. It's Matt Coleman, your host from Los Angeles from Magnify World. Our company specializes and promotes emerging technologies in the ARVR space, but also artificial intelligence. And today we have a very special guest from Toronto, Riya Mehta. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you? Super excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. I'm excited to talk about your company. You're the co-founder of Future Shot Factory. You're also involved in another bunch of collaborations and accelerators around Toronto as well. So I want you to have a chat about that. But look, congratulations, you're making a real mark for yourself here. I was reading your blogs, last year when you were 16 and you were getting some great praise. So, you're currently 17. So, we think it's really exciting talking to you about, what got you into AR and VR and when. And you picked an amazing field of medicine. So love you to talk about what inspired you to get into the industry and the other companies you work with.
Of course, yeah. I started off my journey when I was about 16 years old. So this was about around last September, I would say, early September. And I thought about different ways that I could get involved in different industries. I thought about different ways I could get involved in different fields of medicine. I've always wanted to be a doctor. That's kind of how I was raised in my family. I wanted to help people. I wanted to heal people. And the best way that I knew how is getting involved in medicine. So when I first started off in that field, I contacted my school where I go to high school. And I said, look, I really want to get involved in this field of medicine. I really want to research. I really want to help patients. I really want to help people. How can I get involved in doing that? And my school actually got me in touch with a couple of programs, specifically at Sick Kids Hospital, a really amazing research hospital and pediatric hospital in Toronto, located in downtown Toronto. And they said it would be great for you to do a co-op program, which is basically about a 5 to 6 month program for a semester where a student can go in and basically do research, work with researchers and do tasks that are assigned to them for about that month period, those months period. And they'll be able to work with amazing people in that space. So you can do that in any kind of field. I chose medicine specifically. So when they got me in touch with Sick Kids Hospital, I wanted to get started right away. And I joined around September, I would say. That's when I first started my tenure there.
Fantastic. And tell me more about the Knowledge Society. Is that part of the program there?
No, actually, the Null Society is a completely different program, but it's really where I was able to utilize a lot of my skills and build a lot of my mindsets to do that kind of research at the hospital. So Null Society is an amazing program. It's a human accelerator program that basically takes really ambitious teenagers, and it's kind of like an incubator for them to learn about entrepreneurship, build their own businesses. We have weekly sessions where we learn about different technologies. So since I've been involved in the program for almost a year now, basically a year, every single week, we have weekly sessions where we learn about different technologies like AI, VR, AR. That's first where I got exposed to those technologies and really how to build mindsets towards building businesses. We study a new mindset every week. So some mindsets include resiliency, failure, how to deal with failure, things like that. Really build ourselves up to be almost like world-class entrepreneurs. And it's crazy. A lot of my friends at the program have spoken at world-class conferences, have traveled, have done amazing collaborations with people just at the ages of 16 and 15. So next year, I'm going into the program as a second-year student, and I'm really excited to learn about different problems in the world and how I can solve them.
Brilliant. So is that a Toronto-based organization, and are they worldwide or?
Yeah, they started off in Toronto, and we're really excited because I've been helping them with their expansion a little bit behind the scenes, and they've expanded to a bunch of different cities like Las Vegas. They have a location in Boston, and they're expanding even more. Because of COVID, they've actually been able to implement an online program. So it's basically an all online program for people who don't have locations of the program in their city. So for example, people in Texas, one of my really good friends in Texas, she's going to be doing the program online virtually. So it kind of extends to worldwide. Regardless of where you are, you can get involved.
Wow, fantastic. And tell us, there's a couple of other organizations you're involved with as well. Tell me more about those.
Yeah, for sure. So through Future Shot Factory, which is the company and business that I'm leading right now, I started that when I was, I think, in January. And I realized that I really wanted to get involved in sustainable development, because sustainable development combined with technology is really the future of where a lot of solutions are heading towards. I'm a person that personally, I believe in intersections between different areas. So you have an intersection of a problem and then technology that can solve that problem. So when I started Future Shot Factory, we realized that the only way we're going to be able to really progress is building partnerships with different companies and helping them to accelerate their sustainable development. So right now with IBM, we're actually building an education platform that helps for university students and high school students to have exposure to sustainable development goals. And basically it's kind of like an explore module almost, where they're learning different sustainable development goals. They go through these different learning modules, and at the end, they're able to receive mentorship and also know how they can make more progress in these different fields. So that's just an example of one organization we're working with. And I've also done a lot of.
I have a question for you on that.
Yeah.
The education market's never seen a crazy upturn in what's happened, obviously, and there's a lot of schools at all ages and colleges and universities completely underprepared for collaboration, let alone e-learning or online collaboration. Tell us more about that educational project, because that's a hot subject right now, and we delve into that on every single one of these interviews, you know, a lot more than we would like, you know, which is great because we're trying to solve this. So tell us more about those collaboration tools, though, and is it AR or is it VR or a combination of both? Are you using AI to predict any modeling and that computer vision? I mean, tell me more about the experience.
Yeah, for sure. So with the education platform specifically, right now we're actually wireframing it. So we're going to be getting a team from IBM, hopefully to build it out in the next few months. Right now we're designing what the course and what the platform will actually look like. But with a whole education thing, just like you described, there's a big need for it, especially right now, because so many extracurriculars have been cut off from high school students and university students because of COVID-19. So we realized that the best way to initiate collaboration between students in different organizations is including and introducing a platform that can help them to build those relationships. Because oftentimes students want to do impactful things. They just don't want to have to go through the hassle of looking on the internet and doing all these different steps. So we thought it would be best to combine all these different kind of learning experiences and give it to them. Right now, we're probably going to be developing it, like I said, using a team there. So we're excited about looking into different technologies. As of now, VR and AR is not included just because of the capacity, as it's going to be online for different students to interact with. But we were talking about the possibility of potentially having an AR-based education feature where students are able to kind of throw in a VR AR headset, or have that experience and be able to interact with their environment.
Yeah, what I find with VR in particular is that the retention rate and what you recall is probably 70% higher as some of the stats that some of our researchers are talking about. What age group are you actually targeting with your online education? Because with apps like Snapchat and facial recognition and all those fun stuff, I mean, if you can incorporate those sort of technologies in a learning environment, it's got to be a winner, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and we're targeting specifically right now, since IBM, the hub that we're working with, it's called the Advanced Studies Hub at IBM. They actually have partnerships with different universities in Toronto. So universities like McMaster, Waterloo, and it's great because we have a whole community of students that we're able to tap into. We're actually doing really soon a presentation to the entire IBM community. So that's hundreds of people that we're going to be able to present the platform to and get their input on and send surveys out and really understand what do they want to see on this platform. Instead of just opening up a textbook and learning about a specific social impact goal, what can they have on this platform that'll make it an interactive experience? So right now we're targeting university students, but we hope in the future to bring this to high schools and potentially get more involved with the government and what they're doing in education, because we think it's really important to want to train students in a different way. And that's also what I noticed with medicine, is when I first got involved with VR and AR, the impact of how we can help with medical training is astronomical. It's crazy. I was researching so many different case studies at different universities like UCLA School of Medicine and how they're incorporating virtual reality into their training. And I think it's just so important before a researcher or a med student supposed to step into an operating room and be able to save a life? How are they going to be able to do that? And I think VR is a really great way to have an interactive experience and be able to really kind of do almost virtual surgery. It's really interesting, just the things that they're doing to incorporate that. So we wanted to take a step further and look at how we can do more online-based education, especially since education is transforming to an e-learning state now in so many countries.
In fact, you know, you're part of a 5-part health series we're doing actually with Magnify World. And we actually just interviewed Skip Rizzo, who's the head researcher for VR at USC. He's actually held that position, I believe, for maybe 25 years.
Wow.
And, you know, they have done incredible research on phobias, you know, veteran rehabilitation, a lot of different areas, Alzheimer's, and that sort of areas. I'm happy to introduce you guys as well. I think you'd have some interesting research conversations around what they've been up to, because a lot of their stuff is made public as well, which is fantastic.
For sure, yeah.
And I know that, you know, health is very much of your interest in the emerging tech space. How do you see, outside of the training side of it, which you mentioned, what about, you know, telemedicine? I mean, can you see that, you know, doctors will be able to use AR versus VR versus mixed reality? And look, mixed reality means, to our viewers, and I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but it's putting digital objects in the real world through smart glasses. In particular, I call them smart glasses, you know. So, you know, it's a different experience and probably a better one for telemedicine in my mind. But where do you see all that going? I mean, telemedicine's obviously exploded, right?
Oh, for sure.
For a reason.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I was actually at a conference in June, Collision, and I was speaking to a couple of people who were specializing in telemedicine. It was a panel just about telemedicine. I'm such a huge fan of telemedicine. It's really interesting because at the Knowledge Society specifically, I'm really the only person who's researching into telehealth and things like wearables. How can we get VR involved in telehealth as well, those intersections? So I had more time to research on my own and be able to see the barriers of what is being implemented right now. How can we move past that, things like that. And it's crazy because telemedicine has been on the back burner for so long, but now because of the COVID-19 pandemic, it's really coming in front and proving to a lot of people that this technology can be there in so many different countries to be able to save lives, to be able to have live consultations with doctors. Right now, what I see is that there is a barrier between obviously not being able to do physical exams. For example, if you are doing a prenatal exam for a young kid or anything like that, and you're coming into the hospital, you're usually going to have a physical exam. And unfortunately, telemedicine doesn't provide that. Yeah. But what I was doing research into with Virtuary is how can we get VR involved in that? Potentially having a more VR augmented reality, virtual reality type connection between a doctor and a patient, you know, to be able to throw on a VR headset and kind of have them connect over the same interface. So that's just something I was looking into. I'm still looking into the technology of it, how we're going to be able to do those types of things. But just to move past that barrier is something I was thinking about.
So that's your VR hospitals term, I noticed, that you use, right?
Yeah, virtual reality hospitals. It's definitely not to a point where we're going to be able to put it out into the world because there's so much research to be able to do, and how actually we're going to be able to implement it, how we're going to be able to use the interface, things like that. But it's just interesting to think about how we can, even with virtual reality schools, that's another idea I was thinking about, is if students don't have to actually step into school, if they can have an education online, since we're already doing it online, how can we take that a step further and make it an interactive experience for them? It's so interesting because when I think of virtual reality, at this point, it is underdeveloped in certain areas, but we've seen the visualization with gaming and things like that. That's really where we've seen a lot of the market. So I'm just thinking about how can we take that and put it into the medical field? How can we get that same visualization with VR that we're able to get through gaming in the medical field as well? So just some ideas that I was thinking about.
And is that's the gamification basically for engagement, for deeper engagement, you know, really at the end of the day. In fact, we've been talking a lot about, you know, Fortnite's virtual concerts and targeting different age groups for, you know, an artist like Travis Scott, which probably
Oh yeah.
usually wouldn't attract an 8-year-old child playing Fortnite, right? You can be any age, of course, play Fortnite. And I'm just picking that one as probably a new market for him. I would have thought. And you've also got the, you know, the challenge in the market of the App Store revenue shares, which you may have seen as well recently with Epic, you know, not wanting to pay a 30% revenue share to Apple and Google by bypassing the payment platforms. I mean, have you given it much thought on, you know, the cost and the business model yet moving forward? Does the knowledge center that you work with, you know, talk to you a lot about business models? Because that and problem solving, I assume that that's part of the program, but what have you learned about business models?
Yeah, it's so interesting because at the program, the reason I love the program so much is because it literally gives students so many opportunities to be able to look into things like business models, look into things like how to start a business, how to successfully run a business. Because I am, you know, leading my own business right now with a co-founder of mine, we actually go to the director, who is Naveed Nathu. He's one of the directors for Toronto, and we ask him a lot of advice on how to run a business, how to manage interns, what business model is best, you know, whether it's a profitable company, a partnership-based company, just things like that. It's so interesting to get business advice from someone who's built businesses and things like that. But what's really amazing is that we've gotten opportunities to consult for different companies. So I remember a little bit ago, we got an opportunity as a program to be able to consult for Google's spin-off company, Sidewalk Labs, on their waterfront development. And through that, we were able to understand how a business works, how their business works, how we can offer up a solution, how to pitch to businesses using, you know, different methods, how to be able to convince them, do research into what solutions work and what don't. And then later on, we also got to pitch to an amazing organization called Kidogo, and they're basically an ECD company in East Africa working to basically build up childhood education. And we were looking into how can we help them be able to also give more rise to women entrepreneurs who are basically helping them take care of those kids at those child centers. So just really interesting stuff. And we were able to understand, again, how their business model works, because they're such a different business than something like Google, right? They started off as a nonprofit company, and they're more of a childcare company, but they're located in East Africa. So it's a completely different space. But it's like, how can we work with that market and be able to pitch something that's that can work, that's profitable? And working with kids is just, it's such an interesting thing because you get so many youthful ideas and you get so many new ideas. So I've been able to work with the team for that. And it's really built up a lot of my entrepreneurship skills. Specifically, we've actually had, since the program got cut down to 2 years, there was originally a 3-year program where the last year was called Disrupt. And that's basically where you learn about a lot of entrepreneurship skills. Because a lot of the program is changing now, they recently cut it down to just 2 years. But the reason I'm excited to go back is because next year, in the year called Activate, which is the second year, I'll be able to learn about businesses and how to build them. So I'm excited about that.
What a great program. And how many, is it 1 day a week, did you say, that you go into, is it a classroom setting, and now you're doing a Zoom setting?
Yeah, no, it was a hard transition at first because I've built so many of my lifelong relationships with people there, and then having to transfer over to the Zoom setting was different, but it's the same online mentorship. It was the same feeling of being able to solve problems. What I always tell kids who are going to join the program is that it is once a week, a session, but be prepared to put 20 plus hours a week into the work. Because there's so many different things that go into it. The reason that the program is so successful for students is because we do these things called focuses. And basically focuses is kind of like a mini degree that you do. So in university, you go and you do a degree for 4 years. In the Null Society, we basically do a tech-based kind of degree. So we spend months just building up projects in different areas. So things like VR, AR, 3D printing, AI, just to multiple different areas, autonomous vehicles. My brother is also in the program, and he's such a fan of autonomous vehicles, AI, things like that. So he started off by doing a focus in there, me in different things. So you can choose what to do a focus in, but you have to put a lot of time into it. So you have to be able to build projects, pitch to different companies, maybe go into collaborations, partnerships, and different things. So be prepared to put in that time as well. But yeah, usually it is weekly sessions for just the technology portion.
Oh, excellent. And tell us more about the collaboration with IBM. They've obviously got Watson, their AI engine. How are you getting exposed and to AI across the different areas of the businesses that you're talking it to and thinking about creating in the future? I mean,
Yeah.
is that a key subject, of course, in every conversation you're having?
I mean, for sure. I think because I started off a little bit more into VR and AR, I got exposed to AI a little bit later on, and then I kind of jumped my focus to different areas. But it's still a major point of how we're going to actually build the platform, how we're going to incorporate different features into, predicting different models, different things like that. We have yet to talk about it in depth, so we're going to have more conversations with the IBM developers to actually learn about this stuff, how they're going to be able to incorporate AI into the platform, different things like that, because I'm still learning at a very young age and they're really old, not really old, but much older than me. They're doing a bunch of different things as well, and they're learning how to also do that as well. So it's going to be interesting to have those conversations with them about how artificial intelligence is going to be integrated. But I've also learned a lot just being part of Sick Kids Hospital in the space of AI and health as well,
Yeah.
in terms of predicting models and things like that. And I've been able to sit in on weekly lab sessions and just learn about that stuff. So it's just interesting, as my focus is not specifically in AI, but to see those intersections
Yeah.
is a key focus of mine, and to learn from other people as well.
Yeah. I think, from the AI perspective, in any user case in the immersive technology space, it's trigger points that give you a better outcome, as you said, maybe a predictive model, and using those intelligent algorithms to basically give you a better evaluation of whatever you're looking at, right? Whether it's health or whether it's a score on the education mark or whatever. Tell us a little bit more about those predictive models. I'm really interested in that. And what did you see when they opened up the lab, to you, around that? What were they predicting exactly? Was it life expectancy? Was it the growth of a health issue? All those sort of things.
Yeah. So specifically, because there's so many different labs, I actually, for my co-op, I worked in the cardiology institute. So I was actually there researching into hearts and all that kind of good stuff. And then I got exposed to different labs like the AI and genomic lab, and they were doing a lot of longevity work as well, predicting things like life expectancy, just the stuff that you were saying, and then also doing more work into the intersection of AI and genomics, how to predict genetic diseases, genome mapping, things like that. I still have yet to do a lot of research into that because it's such a huge field and there's so much information, and I'm still learning about that kind of stuff as well. But that's mainly the stuff that they were focusing on. And then with IBM, predicting, one thing that we're interested in seeing is how can we also use AI to be able to predict what can we use in terms of the education platform as well. It's like, what students are going to be interested in, how can we take information from their surveys and basically have AI kind of be able to assist in that. So we're still figuring out how can we implement that together, because we think it'll be really interesting for it to have more of an automated section where we can send out surveys to students and then also have AI come in and then be able to give more rise to predicting, what students would want to see, have them predict outcomes and have us integrate that in the platform. So still have yet to learn a lot about it, but it's just really an interesting field. So I'm trying to talk to as many people as I can to learn more, and also how they're going to be able to develop different things using that.
Yeah, what about the 3D printing stuff that you mentioned earlier on? I know it's a little bit different to the ARVR business, but what were you using the 3D printing? What was the drive behind that? Is that part of the business as well?
Yeah, for sure. So I got a lot of my background in 3D printing a bit over 2 months ago. I started doing a focus at the Null Society in 3D printing, and I started researching into the power of things like bioprinting, 3D printing for just basic structures, and specifically at Sick Kids when I was having my co-op there. Because I was in the Cardiology Institute, we were researching into hearts. We were thinking about how to grow artificial heart tissue through bioengineering, just those kind of things. And I was thinking about how can we actually use 3D printing with hearts to, how can we 3D print hearts essentially? That was kind of the focus around a lot of the studying that I was doing, is researching into how can we actually bioprint human hearts and use that to be able to save really young kids who have heart defects, heart conditions. And I'm, again, still researching the technology of that because it's so much, and it's so amazing. And right now, my friend and I were actually about to start kind of a residency at Autodesk, which is a 3D printing company, to be able to just 3D print normal models. So I'll be able to work with that company, 3D print models, and then at the same time be able to come up with an idea of different measurements of the hearts and be able to apply that to bioprinting as well. So it's just interesting because we're heading into an era where personalized medicine is such a big factor. So we can literally take stem cells from patients and be able to inject that in a model and print that up as a bioprinted model, and be able to use that in a patient's body. So we're just researching into the chance of rejection, obviously, because with so many heart transplants right now, there's such a huge chance of rejection that a patient won't accept that heart is theirs because it's not personalized to them. So how can we use stem cells to be able to kind of avoid that, and just things like that. So it's definitely a lot of research, but I got started because I wanted to figure out a different solution to just having to repair hearts every time during surgery. How can we find a new internal framework and kind of replace a lot of the stuff in there with a new heart and things like that. So there's been a lot of case studies from different universities that I've been researching into, and just figuring out how can we apply their technology to some of the stuff that I'm doing right now.
Oh, interesting. And look, being 17, can you tell me what's your favorite? Is there a favorite game that you like to play? Do you have time for games? Is there a particular, like, did you ever play Pokemon? What are your fellow students into, basically? I mean, obviously you might say TikTok. Can you rank anything like of your interest? Because I don't even know how you have time to learn all about all this. It's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. It's so interesting because I think a lot of people around me, we say that we don't have personal lives. We just kind of work towards what we're doing, and that's just it. But for me, in my free time, I've never been involved in anything in the gaming side. I've never been able to do any of that. I haven't really had time to do a lot of the gaming stuff. But definitely the interesting thing about social media, and specifically TikTok, is I've done a lot of research into how can we use those different platforms to optimize a personal brand, to build up businesses, just things like that. I hate to bring the conversation to just the business side, but just on TikTok, for example, it's amazing to gain exposure. I mean, you see so many social media stars come out of that with 80+ million followers, and they're basically gaining a huge platform on a platform where you can scroll through and see videos of them dancing and do whatever. So what I find is I raise awareness a lot on TikTok. Using my TikToks, I try to bring awareness to issues that are going around the world, such as with Lebanon, the explosion that happened there, just social issues around the world. And I see that so many people can see them and like them and scroll through them and get informed. So just by using those platforms, I'm able to have a better understanding of issues that are going around the world, and then also bring awareness to them too. So it's interesting because I've been able to use social media to build a personal brand, and that's kind of been my focus there. But I honestly haven't had much leisure time to just focus on gaming and just doing things for fun. I find a lot of fun in what I do, with my projects and helping people. So that's kind of where my focus
You're
is.
right.
But
Emerging technology is so interesting. Obviously, that's why we do it at the same time, and it definitely doesn't feel like a real job because you're always projecting the future. Obviously, your company's called Future Shot Factory for a reason. I was going to say moonshot actually, but I was just doing. I told you about the moon interview that I was just doing actually before, and it was a crazy experience. But I'm sure you've done that all before me. And look, just to finish up, Riya, tell us how people can find you on LinkedIn or anywhere else, your blog.
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn at just Riya Mehta. I'm probably going to be the first person that pops up, hopefully. So you're going to be able to connect with me there. I also have all my contact information, like my email. You can also go to my website at riam.me. I have all my contact information there. And then futureshotfactory.com. You can also email us through there as well. So many different ways to reach with me and connect with me, and be able to have conversations. I always love talking to people, and for sure.
Fantastic. Well, look, I've really enjoyed meeting you today, Riya, again, and congratulations on all your studies and interests in the emerging technology space. And we'll be promoting this online over the next week, and look forward to getting some great feedback. So well done on your career short career so far. Been fantastic to talk to you, and you have a good afternoon.
Thank you. You as well. It was so nice of you to do this. I love talking to people and sharing my story and hopefully helping them. So thank you so much.
Okay.
Nice.
Bye-bye.
Bye.